Hey everybody, Daniel and Elizabeth from House of I. Just want to thank Henri Wong for coming on and talking to us about the Poisonville Song Project. It was a very interesting conversation, learning about why he got started in that, his influences, and how he started getting into local bands. So thank you so much for that. Just wanted to plug some of our dates, our upcoming dates. So August 23rd, we're playing at the Benz in St. Petersburg with Palomino Blonde, hailing from Miami. So thank you for that. The Jackettes, who are St. Pete natives, and I've been listening to their music. It's been awesome. August 31st, we're playing at the Blue Note in Tampa with Blood Moon Boogie, Mr. Handsome, which we played with before, Neverless, and Satch, all new bands we haven't played with. So excited about that. September 7th, we're playing this benefit show, which is benefit for Spring Domestic Violence Shelter. Looking forward to that. That is called Rock in Her Shoes, and we are playing with our friends Lassiu, Proud Miranda, Lady Moonbeam, and Mr. Handsome. So there's also a ton more acts playing. Kid Loki's also playing that as well. MCing that, so that's cool. So looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome. The next upcoming show is September 21st, and we are playing at Shuffle Tampa with Bear the Lady and Proud Miranda. So look forward to that.
Yep, and we actually plugged in Henry's upcoming Poisonville shows at the end of the podcast. So just check that out, and hopefully we can see you guys out there.
Yep, and we will have, like always, the links to any of his information and the Poisonville page and all that stuff. So please check that out in the YouTube description. And share and subscribe, guys. You know, we really appreciate it. We're at 99 subscribers so far, and maybe we might be at more. So, but anyways, hope you enjoy this podcast. Thank you guys so much for being subscribers and fans, and I hope you guys enjoy this one. Bye. All right, hello everybody. This is take 2 of the House of I podcast. Today we have Henri Wong from the Poisonville Song Project, and this is the second time we're doing this because the video kind of cut out on us. So please work. What's up, Henry? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you guys?
We're now now a little frustrated, but I'm gonna go through the questions that we kind of asked already. Luckily I didn't go through too much, but the first question that we asked was where you're from originally.
Okay, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I've been in Florida for a long time, so. You could say I'm from Tampa, Florida right now.
Yeah. And we kind of talked about the fact that growing up in New York, you didn't really like listen to I guess like the more underground stuff till you moved to Florida. And that's kind of where we left off of.
Yeah, I was not really aware of any of that. I do remember thinking back now about hip hop. I was not really into hip hop then, but I could see the culture kind of around me because, back then before phones, people had, the boom boxes. They walked around with those. You could see kids break dancing. And then a lot of the people who eventually became, legends like LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, they're from the city. Yeah. And you hear about them. I didn't know any of them personally, but they were just around. Like you get on the subway, somebody comes up there with a boom box and he's playing something. Yeah. Or you're walking down the street, people are break dancing and doing b-boy culture. And it's just, just thinking back about it, it just never occurred to me that it would be like an industry it is now. Mm-hmm. It was just something people did, and I just remember it being around.
Yeah. Hey, did you see that documentary, the evolution of hip hop?
I did not know.
It's freaking awesome, man.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't realize how much hip hop was rooted in like South. Like that's where we're from. We're from Miami. And I didn't realize how much like that early stuff from the '80s was from Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? What's that group that literally fought against? Like they literally had like court. Like
maybe think about 2 Live Crew.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because basically, like, there was that, I guess he was a Broward mayor or something like that, and he was trying to censor them, basically.
Yeah. Because a lot of their songs were, X-rated kind of material, and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so silly though.
Which is crazy now, considering like what is mainstream, like in terms of like movies, music, and stuff. Like the crazy stuff that they say now.
Yeah, everything's pretty out there, huh?
Yeah. It is crazy.
But I did find out something recently that I did not know. De La Soul, their first record, which is considered a hip-hop classic, it's not available on any streaming services because there's one sample on the record that never got cleared.
Do you know what the sample is?
Yeah, I don't know the name of the original song, but it's from a band, I think, I don't know if it's the Turtles, but it's a 60s band. It's either the Turtles or one guy who's associated with the Turtles.
I think it's on that the documentary we were talking about. I think it's on there. They mention it because they go through all of hip hop, right? So they mentioned De La Soul, and that's actually they were mentioning something about samples and stuff like that with them.
Yeah,
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
That's actually like a really interesting thing that that must have been the first time that started happening, where people were like just literally grabbing other people's music, like the recordings of it, and then using it for their own music.
Yeah.
Like it does, like there's like the argument of, oh, you should have just let it go. It's like.
But it was also brand new back then. Sampling was new, and there was no like legal parameters involved, and so
What do you think about that? Do you think it's fair, like, to have to check, like, I guess, get it cleared with the other bands, or do you think it should just be a free for all?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, as an artist, if you create something, you want to get rewarded for it. But then at the same time,
as an artist,
I mean, but like, you take something and that's pre-existing and you make it new. I mean, I guess there's arguments for both. Like say like someone like Moby, like, I mean, like he'll sample something that's old, but then he'll shuffle it around or add something to it that's completely new. And so I think it's kind of a complex. I don't think it's really a black and white issue.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because like DJ Shadow, like his first record, Introducing, is another classic, but it's all built on samples. I mean, they're obscure samples, but they're samples.
Yeah.
But then again, he's arranging it where it's something new.
That's funny that you say that, because I think DJ Shadow is like one of Tom York's like biggest influences, I think.
Probably.
From Radiohead.
Because maybe that's why when he did the Eraser, it was electronic bass and not guitar bass.
Yeah, or even Kid A, like going like when they were still like when he was still doing music with Radiohead. That's funny though.
Yeah.
All right. I love when we go off on tangents. So we kind of spoke about like when you started listening to, I guess, more, you would, I guess, underground, but still kind of considered mainstream. When did you start getting into literally local music?
Oh, shoot. Probably like later, like pretty much. I mean, I was always aware of like certain bands and stuff like that. But like actually really getting into probably not until we started this series, because I mean I'm familiar with a lot of the artists, but I didn't go to a lot of shows, and then I'm also a single dad, and so I don't once I had kids I didn't have a lot of time for stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of paid attention on what's going on locally, but I didn't really started getting like into the scene until we started actually doing our own shows, I think.
Okay. When was that? When did you start?
2015.
Oh wow. Okay. So a couple years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the idea behind it? Like, why did you even want to get it started from the beginning?
It was nothing planned out. It was just I worked in a hotel. It's called the Sleep Inn in Wesley Chapel, Florida. It's still there. My inspiration was more NPR's Tiny Desk concerts. I was thinking, why don't we get some singer-songwriters to come in? They could play for our staff, and we could videotape it and put it online. And then... because over there, they also had what they called a happy hour, which is basically a manager's reception. They did it 3 times a week where they served food, and there was also drinks. And so I kind of thought, like, hey, why, since they're here, maybe they could also perform for our guests. And so my boss said, okay. So we did that, and it kind of expanded from there. When I left there, I went to a different hotel. We moved it over there. And so now I'm in St. Pete. So...
Yeah, you're doing it there now.
It's in St. Pete.
That's crazy though. So how exactly did you become familiar with the local bands that have played that have done
I'm
it?
a big listener of WMNF. I don't know if you can plug.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, plug them up.
Yeah, WMNF. So I've always listened to, they play a lot of local music, creative loafing. I try to keep aware because I'm just a music fan in general.
Yeah.
So I just try to. I'm aware of what's around.
Yeah, that conversation that we had when we saw Proud Miranda at the last not the last, but the second to last Poisonville. I could tell like you're a fan, like you know a lot, like you're very versed in music, like you're just like throwing out facts and like things. I was just like, oh man, that's interesting.
Well, that was cool because you told me you were a Radiohead fan,
Yeah.
and so I like Radiohead, and so. But I think like I enjoy the shows, but I kind of enjoy also the conversations with the artists or people who are going to the shows. Yeah. Like I got to talk to you about Radiohead and some other stuff, and I got to talk with the ladies in Proud Miranda about what they like. We talked about the Pixies and a bunch of other stuff, and so
that's my other favorite
that's really
band.
cool.
Yeah, you can even know people, and then we like the same bands, and a conversation could get started. From that. It's great.
Yeah.
So do you actually play any instruments yourself?
I do not. No.
You don't? Wow.
No.
See, that always baffles me. Is like when like we need people like you, like artists, musicians, because you like people like you, like fans like yourself, are what drive our scenes, what drive everything. You know what I'm saying? Like if we had 10,000 more of you, like it'd be fantastic. You know what I'm saying? It's true though, because you actually like support just the fact that you're doing what you're doing is so cool for us, for other locals and stuff like that. You're giving us a platform to perform for people, just and with no strings attached either, because you know how some venues might have some sort of you have to pay to play or something like that.
Bring X amount of people or something like that.
For us, we've always focused on original music. We don't tell people what to play. Whatever they want to play, that's fine. Yeah. So
that's so cool. Yeah. So what are some, I guess we didn't really go through what are some notable artists that you enjoy listening to. It doesn't even have to be local. It can be mainstream, but we didn't really go through that.
Well, one thing, and they were actually I believe, the third ever performer for us is Luxury Maine.
Oh.
I've never heard of them before, but I remember driving home late one night and they were on the late night show on MNF, and they were playing like multiple songs of theirs like in a row. Okay. And I thought they were a national band coming to town on tour, and because the music was so awesome, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they probably come play in Tampa or whatever. And I found out they're actually from St. Pete, and so
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you approached them then with?
I did, yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool. So that must have felt like that must have been a cool feeling to like get them and have them.
It was.
Yeah.
And that was actually our first step in kind of expanding, because in the beginning we were more concentrating on like the solo artists, because our space was very small and we were kind of concerned about noise, so we didn't book full bands. But they came as a duo. They play acoustically. But then eventually we found a way where we could have outdoor shows, so that's why we had full bands, and so we kind of expanded from there.
I was actually going to ask you because I kind of thought about this today as you guys were coming over here. So what would you say, like, what are some things that you've learned about running a show, good or bad?
One thing that I did learn, I know it probably doesn't apply to everybody, but it probably applies to the majority, is when people are setting up, don't fuck with them. Yeah, because I would, they would come and I'll ask them a bunch of questions. I'll talk their heads off, and everybody's very nice, and they'll converse with you. But I kind of feel like during that time is when they're kind of like, say, like an athlete trying to get into that zone.
Yeah.
And plus you're setting up and you want everything to be right, the sound to be right. So that's one thing I learned is, after the initial conversation, when they get there, whatever, I just leave them alone while they're setting up.
That's definitely a great tip to have.
Really
definitely.
Funny.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with them.
Yeah, because that is true. Is like, just from my own experience, like not that this has happened to me before, but like there have been moments where like a friend of yours like is coming to the show and you're setting up and they're just like trying to get your attention, like, hey, what's up, man? You're like, hey, I'm so glad you're here, but it's like, all right, now I gotta set up. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you do have to get in that headspace, because sometimes it could be more, you know, some our stuff, for example, is like can be quite complicated to set up. You know, we've got pedal boards and you know, specific tones and shit.
For most shows, it's a time thing, right? Because we're supposed to get on there, play, get off by a certain amount of time. And having people talk to us or having people there kind of, unfortunately, just gets in the way of that.
Then I'm sure the sound is very important too. So you're trying to get the sound right, make sure, you know, everything's, you know, good to go.
Yeah, that's definitely like, especially if there's no sound guy, like that's, if you, like, for example, if you're not being mic'd and you have to kind of balance that stuff out, like it can be quite tedious to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially if you're not like, so I know some bands, they're more used to being mic'd, so when they get put in the situation where they're not being mic'd, they kind of freak out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Which is understandable because I think the first time we were ever mic'd, I couldn't hear myself, and I didn't know like to add more, like I guess more monitor in my, I guess it would be in my monitor, add more volume to my monitor. And I couldn't hear like my vocals like the whole set or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like with time and experience, like you kind of learn like those little things like, oh, it might sound okay right now, but the whole band's not playing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the same for like my guitar or someone else's guitar, but. Yeah.
I had a friend who also mentioned something interesting. Is he said to be nice to the sound guy if there is a sound guy, because you know he could. Yeah,
because he controls your fate, man.
Yeah.
It's like being mean to your cook, man. You don't do that.
Yeah.
No, we've even when like it's always a weird position when you meet a sound guy and you can tell he's just not in the mood for it, you know, and you're like in the positive mood and you're trying to be nice and they're just like, dude, just fucking set your shit up and get out of my face. Because like I like to meet them and, you know, say hello, say thank you, all that good stuff, and kind of like give them the layout, you know, but typically we don't really run into that problem.
Yeah.
You typically you have someone running sound for you, right?
No, usually if someone does require a PA, we'll have we have a few people we count on, and they kind of act as the sound people. But generally, bands bring their own PAs, and they do their own sound.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that can be better. You know, if a band is familiar with their PA system, like they can just work it out themselves. Like I know, for example, for us, when we had a full PA system that was ours, we, you know, if it was even a question in mind, we'd be like, you know, don't worry about it. We'll just bring ours. We already know how to set it up. Like we know how it works and stuff. And that generally felt better than like having to worry about a venue that has a PA system, but then they're like, you have to run sound that night.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You're just like, okay, that's fine, but I'm not really super familiar. You know, generally speaking, they're all the same, you know, it's the same things, you know what I'm saying? Like in terms of like messing with the mixer and whatnot, but sometimes it can be weird.
Every system has its own like little like quirks and like things that people know and just things like that. There's been like 2 venues that we've gone to that we get there and then we have to do it ourselves and we're like something's not working now. Like we're going through the troubleshooting and it's like it's not working. So it's like now we have to figure out you know, things like that. So it's it is probably better if they have their own sound system to just have them bring it. It's just easier.
There, I think I asked you this that day that we spoke, or rather that night that we spoke. But I guess like I was wondering how when there's people coming, because it's usually, you know, you don't have security, like, right? Like there's no security at the night or anything.
No,
like
there's no security.
Yeah,
no.
So I was wondering, like, and I asked you this, like, have you had any like issues where you had to kind of like throw someone out that showed up?
Just once. It was when we were in Zephyr Hills at the Ramada Hotel. It was a band called Days and Days. They're really big in the. I know the singer doesn't really like the term, but they're in the folk punk scene. But within their scene, they're very big. So we probably had our largest crowd that night. And there was one person who I found out later, I guess, you know, he was a little bit high and he was causing trouble. So we took it as employees to ask them to leave. But there's no physical confrontation or anything like that. But
yeah, I guess like it just doesn't come off as the venue for that. You know what I'm saying? Where like someone would come, it's like, dude, this is at a hotel. Like it's chill. Like it's
but that
vibes.
crowd was more on the punk side.
So they were rowdy.
Well, the crowd was good. It's just this one person.
Yeah.
And apparently he came intoxicated, and then he was grabbing a couple of the performers, and you know just misbehaving, so we had to ask them to leave.
Yeah, that's never fun. Yeah, it's never fun. So what are some, I guess, what are some ideas that you have? Like, do you have any ideas to expand this? Like, what are you thinking?
I don't know about expanding. I mean, kind of yes and no. Because I actually have other people here that help me. There's one person who's like my partner in this. Her name is Chilewa Springs. She was the general manager of the 2 of the hotels that I worked at, and she allows me to go ahead and do this. And she's a big music lover herself, so she knows the importance of the arts and things like that. She actually runs a Marriott up in Ocala right now. She wants to kind of start doing things there. Plus, she wants to do an open mic up there. And so we actually have a show booked August the 18th. It's with a St. Pete artist named Cassandra Rose. So she's going to be performing in Ocala. I'm kind of involved there. I'm not like super involved as I am in St. Pete because I can't be up there. Mm-hmm. But in terms of expansion, that would probably be it for now. I don't know about long term, but
that's still a step in, like, that's a step in that direction, you know?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you kind of got lucky then, like, having managers that are willing to do something like that.
Absolutely.
Because I remember, like, when I went, I was just blown away at how, like, this is literally at a hotel right now.
Yeah.
Like, there is local bands playing at a hotel where you have guests that I would imagine, I mean, I would be surprised if there aren't people that are like, I hate this. You know what I'm saying?
They are. And
yeah.
But that's kind of like the appeal that it's, like I said, I think I mentioned this to you when we first met, it's kind of subversive.
Yeah.
Because we're a corporate franchise. You don't expect the type of music that we have there. So that's kind of the appeal as well.
That's what makes it cool, in my opinion. You know? Yeah, just like it's like the most hipster thing.
But then, like, we also discussed, like, it just depends on the person. One person finds it cool, the other person thinks it's kind of corny, and so there's. I mean,
I don't understand how you can think it's corny when it's like literally. It's like the most DIY thing ever.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna mention any names. But there's people who've turned down playing for us just because they just thought the idea
was weird.
It didn't appeal to them.
Yeah, that's fine. That's understandable. I mean, I'm sure there'll be people that will do the same for us, like coming onto this podcast. You know, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I find that, like, our music, for example, works best in, like, dive bars, something like what you're doing, you know, like DIY stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like we can pander to a more mainstream audience. You know what I'm saying? And not maybe pandering is not the correct word, but
then, you know, like, what you do is not really what's on the mainstream.
Yeah.
So
I mean, weirdly, like, strangely enough, when you look at a band like Radiohead and see the kind of success that they have, or even the Pixies, I mean, they're pretty big now. I mean, they're not Radiohead status, but they're now playing with Weezer. I mean, Weezer is a pretty well-known band, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, like,
such a weird combination.
It's weird that, like, I feel that our music kind of falls into that genre. But then, like, I don't know, maybe I think I might be overthinking this right now.
But then Radiohead is like those weird exceptions because they're not really mainstream music, but they're popular. I mean, people know about them. Like,
even if they don't like them, they know who it is.
Yeah. Or even like something like Mumford and Sons. Like, they're basically like a bluegrass type band, like string band.
Yeah.
But they're on mainstream pop radio.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, they weirdly started like this whole kind of generation of folk. Like, I don't know if you remember, like, I guess it was maybe 2000, maybe like 13 to about a couple years ago, where like that music was like huge, like the Mumford and Sons kind of thing. And
I remember when swing was big, like Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, and there was a big swing craze, and they had all these bands with horns.
Oh, like kind of like ska music, you mean?
Yeah, but like swing dancing, like
a little bit more to this.
Yeah.
What popular artist or can you like comes to mind when you're mentioning that?
Oh, I remember Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. There's other ones I know I can't really remember now, but I remember that was a big thing. Like wearing retro clothing and swing dance lessons, and I just remember there was a bunch of bands that were doing that stuff, and it was a big thing at one time. But
the music I remember most, like in high school, being popular at the time was like a lot of emo punk kind of stuff.
My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Taking
Okay.
Back Sunday.
Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah, and
Which
I never
definitely don't care for that.
Yeah, I never got into it, but I like it was kind of weird. In high school, I grew up listening to rap. Like as a younger person or whatever. When I got to high school, I was kind of turned on to like the Beatles and stuff like that. And it was weird being in high school and listening to music from like the 60s and 70s, you know, like almost like discovering it then. You know, and being like one of the only people listening to that at the time, when like the majority of other people were listening to, you know, what was on the radio.
But then was it kind of like a revelation to you because it's something that's older and you're exposed to it for the first time? And
I don't know. I mean, it definitely made me want to play music, that kind of music. Like I was very big into the Beatles, the Who, Pink Floyd. I still love Pink Floyd a lot. What else? Led Zeppelin, you know, all that kind of, like, you know, just like your typical like early stuff that you get into. And I kind of had like a big, like I had like a long, like maybe like a year or two of just listening to that strictly. And then that's when I started getting into like the more modern, even though at the time it still wasn't considered modern. It'd been like Radiohead, the Pixies. I got into Tame Impala was like the only new band that I'd heard of at the time.
Now, at Radiohead, were you a big fan like right from the beginning when Creep broke, or was it later on?
No, the first time I listened to them had been after their release of In Rainbows.
Okay.
And it must have been around 2009. I think they released In Rainbows like 2006. So I'd heard it like years afterwards, and I didn't like them at all. Like I liked only one song, which was Body Snatchers was the only song I liked. And I was listening to Radiohead, Coldplay, Kings of Leon, and The Strokes like super heavily at that time. And I was working a summer job with my dad where I was helping his maintenance guy. So I was just like listening to music the whole time, like literally hours of me just listening to albums and stuff like that. And my buddy was like, "You need to listen to this band, Radiohead." He sends me In Rainbow, and I didn't like it at first, and then I don't know, it just grew on me. Was that Pam?
Jesus Christ! Yeah, it was.
She's probably attacking something outside.
Oh, you know what? That other cat is probably out there.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is.
That stupid cat.
I was laughing because I remember you telling me that you didn't like him at first, and I didn't either. Yeah, she didn't. Now she has a tattoo on her arm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're the kind of band you got to sit down and listen to,
It
and
really
then kind
is.
of like it has to, you know, you got to kind of. It takes a while, I think, because it's not the most accessible type things. Not something you put on that you bop your head to.
Exactly.
And so.
What do you think that's literally what that is? Because like now, because I would even say like back then I was still listening to things that weren't super accessible. Like I would say some of that like 70s stuff isn't extremely accessible, but would you say that? Do you think that if people just gave the time to this kind of music, do you think that there'd be more people into it, or do you think like most people just have a taste for something simpler?
I think maybe if they gave some time to it, maybe. But then we also live in the culture where right now a lot of people don't listen to full records, like because they get their music from downloads, and you know they'll download one song and they'll skip to the other one, and they won't listen to a whole album. And
that is an issue.
Yeah.
Well, because it's weird because although I understand that now, like as a more mature person, I feel like a couple years ago when we were like doing our album, for example, I still was kind of like living in that well, maybe just me. I don't know about you guys, but I was just still like, I want to release an album. You know, now I'm like, I want to release singles. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's kind of what's cool. Like so-called alternative punk cultures, they're still putting out 7-inches, and vinyl's made a resurgence. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah, it's weird. That's a weird thing. It is crazy to see like both. Like I guess the retro idea of things, like for example cassettes, CDs, even well not CDs. I guess CDs we'll probably get there soon, but like cassettes and vinyl and stuff like coming back around, and even like the music itself. Like I feel like in our scene specifically, there's like a huge resurgence of like 80s lo-fi stuff, you know what I'm
Okay,
saying, like that
yeah.
kind of like synthy.
Yeah,
I might
yeah.
be wrong, but I feel like that's what it would be like if I were to pick an era. It would be the 80s, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And like I guess a little bit of like the late 60s as well, like almost like they're mashing like 69 with like
Okay.
81. You get what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And
yeah.
not like hair metal stuff, but just kind of like your synth pop stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
Yeah.
Which I find that really interesting, but it's just like it's weird. It's weird when I do feel like there's certain bands that kind of propel that into like existence. Like Tame Impala, I would say, is a huge reason
Okay.
why there's so many bands doing that now. I don't know if you listen to them at all.
I have a listen. Yeah, not a whole lot. I'm aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go back a little bit because you said you mentioned you listen to a lot of Coldplay.
Yeah.
And are you still a big Coldplay fan?
No, I'm not a fan anymore, man. I mean, I guess I'm a fan still, but I just like I guess everything after X and Y, like even what was that? What was the one directly after X and Y?
Was it the one about the Romeo and Juliet story, or
I think-
wasn't it like there was that concept record? I think
it was the one
Wasn't
with
it
like
that France one?
I don't.
Oh yeah. I don't know what you're talking. I could visualize the cover. I don't
The
remember.
cover of it, right?
Yeah, where it's like almost like a painting.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of lost me there.
I mean, I don't like Coldplay to me, and I don't want to piss off any Coldplay fans.
Just piss them off.
Piss
It's
them
all
off,
right.
dude.
Just piss 'em off.
Say the worst thing you can
I
say.
kind of think they were a good band that just got mediocre instead of getting better. Because I kind of think like they played conservative.
Yeah.
And I believe they have a lot of talent, but I don't know. It's just I never thought they took it to the next level. But maybe that's not their. Well, I mean, I guess I don't know from their perspective. I'm sure they think every album is great, and
Right.
Well, I don't know. I just kind of expected more in a way. I don't know.
You talk like me, man.
He's like, I don't
You
know. I'm
like
just
me,
saying.
like I find that like you're the first person that I noticed that will kind of like backtrack before they even say what they're trying to say, and I do that too. It's so funny to like
Well, because I
hear
remember
it.
listening to the first record, I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And then
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, and then the next one was all right, but then I just kind of felt like they just got into like a bland like.
What was the same thing with
ordinary.
Kings of Leon? I feel like
Yeah,
Kings
I feel
of
the
Leon,
same thing for
when
Kings
they
of
came
Leon.
out, it was just like, holy crap, they could do this country southern thing really, really well if they keep going. And then I don't know what happened. An album or two later, and it was just like downhill from there. in my
Actually,
opinion.
I think we had this exact conversation with Keith Ulrey from Pogo.
Okay.
And like basically like this is the way I think about it now, because as a fan, you kind of get frustrated because you feel like they're just selling out. Right, when they're making like super poppy stuff, because that's what they're doing. They're making like pop music right now. But my point to not be that way or to not judge was to think maybe they're into this music, maybe they actually love this music, like they actually went from, I guess, their early stuff, which it's still pop, but it's not as poppy.
Right.
But they went from that and they just like, they've got like super heavy into like pop EDM kind of stuff, and since like they're just like, I want that music to be what we're releasing as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I hope that's the reason, because
they're also human beings, and
Exactly.
and maybe like you said, this is what they want to do, and so I mean,
I think it is. I think there's like the conspiracy would be like they did it for the money, but it's like they were already successful. You know what I'm saying? They were successful after their first album, I think, right?
Yeah, especially in Britain.
Yeah. Yeah, they were big.
There was no reason to sell out. There was no selling out if you already have a bank full of money.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
just doing what you want to do, and maybe that's what they wanted to do. That would be at least a better end to the story, right? They did it because they wanted to, and they're like, we don't really have
Well,
to
maybe
answer
just
that
as
one.
artists, maybe for some reason that's just the way they progressed.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And it's just unfortunately we don't agree.
I always love asking this question to people. It's always interesting to maybe like you could present a new band, but is there a band that you can think of where you feel that the music that they released like in the past, like I would say like a band that's been around for a minute, do you think there's a band right now still releasing good music, like stuff that you would say is unique, diverse, like progression in their career?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I mean, Wilco kind of comes to mind.
Okay.
They may not be as experimental as there was in the past, but they're still releasing quality music. And I kind of see the progression as an artist gets older. Maybe this is where they're at now.
Mm-hmm. I don't like, and I never want to give this like this, what is not I don't want to misconstrue this idea that, simple is bad, because I love Mac DeMarco, for example.
Yeah.
And he's very simple.
Everybody loves the Ramones, and they're simple.
Exactly. So it's like, I don't mind that. My only issue is when like it comes off that an artist is just doing something because it's like what the general population is gonna be able to intake. You get what I'm saying? Like that's my only issue with artists. Like,
well, to kind of sidetrack a little bit, I have a friend. Her name is Jasmine, but she performs on the name Wonky Tonk, and we actually had a good conversation about this, and it was about Taylor Swift, and she was angry at Taylor Swift was that Taylor she's in a unique position where she has influence, like not just within music, but in the culture, because the fan base is so large, and all these corporations are behind her, and she could actually influence change, not necessarily like we're not talking about music wise, but just like change and like the culture, like we talked about like a little bit of the Me Too culture that's going on, and she has a lot of influence, and she could be the voice for some people who maybe are voiceless, but she does not use that influence. And maybe she's playing it safe because business dictates it that way.
Wait, but so what would you like? Give me an example of what could she do in order, I guess, to help that?
Well, I mean, because we kind of thought. Well, I mean, like I guess, like because she's like a. Like if she comes out like on TV or whatever and she makes a statement about something, it's going to get a lot of attention, and she does have the power to influence change.
Yeah.
In certain circles, and she's just one of those celebrities that are up on that level.
Yeah.
But she chooses to play it safe.
Are you saying because she doesn't specifically like call things out, is what you mean?
I think maybe it's kind of part of her personality where she doesn't like confrontation. Maybe she feels one way, but I don't know. I think there's different layers. Like there's like maybe there's the public persona, and then I don't know what she's like, personally, or maybe they're the same. I don't know.
Can I play devil's advocate here?
Okay.
So if I was Taylor Swift, or like if I were to pretend to be Taylor Swift, if I could just try and pretend that I can even think like her or whatever, I guess my thought would be, I'm just an artist, you know what I'm saying? Like I understand I have this kind of following, but like who am I to impose like my beliefs, my my ideas on people just because I'm popular? You get what I'm saying? Like
I understand.
I was gonna say
like
that. So did your friend think that she should be doing more of those things?
Yes, because she's in that unique position where she can, like she's on that level where like people like Bono, like that. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure, though.
Yeah,
that's a lot of pressure.
Let me introduce.
She just does music,
and not specifically maybe politically, but just
things in general.
Yeah, and then like I guess a good analogy would be like say someone like Neil Young, who's always done his own thing, and some things are they leave people scratching their heads because they're so weird, and then he does he's popular with acoustic music, but then he also does these electric noise feedbacks projects and stuff, and so
I think so. I think going back to that, my only issue with something like that. And not that I care, right? Because I think that if someone wants to use their celebrity to to say something good, like I think that's cool. The only issue is that sometimes like something that a celebrity will like, let's say Kanye West is a great example. He'll say something that a lot of people don't agree with.
Yeah.
And then it's like at that point, so it's like, are you okay with everybody doing that then? You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
That does.
Because a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but I'm sure there will be scenarios where someone with that kind of popularity will say something that you don't agree with. Yeah. And then you have some people that are calling for them to stop talking, just stick to music, for example.
So which is it? Do you want people to talk or do you want people to not talk? Because some people are going to have an opinion that you don't agree with. I don't know. It's just like it's a 50-50 thing. I'd probably prefer for everyone to just shut up.
See, because the thing with me, let's say for I'll keep using Kanye West because I was a big fan of his music back in the day, and I'll be honest, man, like hearing like some of the stuff that he says like now, like it blows me away, like and not to get super political, but like the fact that he supports Donald Trump, like I don't support him, and not that I judge him or look down on him as a person, but like I don't agree with that sentiment. So it kind of like taught me like, oh, you might look up to someone that has completely different ideas than you do. You get what I'm saying? And it's like I feel like you have to be able to.
But then
discern.
Can you separate the artist and the person? Like say you really like this person's music, but maybe he supports this political candidate that you don't.
Yeah.
Like. But
I can do that. Yeah. For me, the music is what matters. Like the way it affects me, like unless like it literally in the song is has some lyrics that are like, terrible lyrics, like saying something racist or something like that, then like I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be down for that. But in terms of like their political party or whatever, like I don't know, it'd be I'm trying to think of like a scenario. Like for example, like this This is a very like intense I guess example, but like Michael Jackson. Like, do you still feel like comfortable listening to his music with all the alleged things that he's done? You know what I'm saying? It's like, or R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Like, is that still okay to like support Bill Cosby? You know what I'm saying? It's like. I don't know. Can you separate the artist there? Like, should you still support their
Well, see, that's
their art?
where things get. I mean, it's complex because I mean, like, okay, so this alleged crime is, I don't know. Like, okay, so like, okay, this guy, if he's against Trump, okay, yeah, that's fine, but I still like his music. But if this guy did, such and such, but this is really bad, so.
Yeah, so I think what you're trying to say is like, you have a line, right? Like that would be your line, is what you would say.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, but then, like you said, it's really complex. I mean, okay, yeah, say if you want to use R. Kelly as an example, okay, if he allegedly did all these things, they're wrong and they're bad, and so like he's a bad person for doing that. Yeah, but then he's also gifted as an artist.
Exactly. So. Yeah.
Thriller is still a good song.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna help it.
I find that people, and not that I like I'm not like a huge fan of either of them anyway, but just like it would be hard for me if I found out that Tom York was like a terrible person, like he did like terrible things, like let's say like he raped somebody or killed somebody. It'd be hard for me to just throw like the music away. You get what I'm saying? Like considering what it's meant to me, like it's literally changed my life. Like it sucks. I just don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know what I would do.
I'd prefer for that not to be the case, but because like you're saying, I haven't listened to R. Kelly a lot, so I've never been a big fan, and the same thing with Michael Jackson, so like those kind of things don't affect me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a weird thing because I don't know. Well, I don't know if this is like a new thing where
there is something that kind of came up, and I'm maybe a little bit behind. It's not really new news, but I don't know if you're familiar with Ryan Adams. He's, I guess, quote unquote, in the alt country genre, but he's really huge, and he actually covered Taylor Swift's 1989 record track by track. Okay. He played in a band called Whiskey Town that in alternative country was hugely influential, and recently the Me Too thing kind of caught up with him, where his ex-wife and some other people came forward about alleged abuse by him. He's denied it, but I'm not going to get into like all the aspects of the case, but so if this is true, I mean, we're about all the great music that I love, all the records of his that I loved. So, I really haven't thought about it, but that is something that I just came across not too long ago, and it is in the news, and he said he's going to come out and address everything, and I don't know, but that's something that I came across. And,
well, Daniel knows that John Lennon beat his wife. He still listens to him.
Like what? Yoko Ono? He beat Yoko Ono?
I don't know. I think he claims like in music or whatever that he was abusive to like his early like girlfriend and wife.
Or was it Paul McCartney that like his exes came out and said something like that?
I think it was John Lennon. I don't know for sure, but the thing with that,
regardless, that's kind of harsh, man. I don't know.
The other thing too is like the one thing that I hope can happen is like no one is, and I'm not saying like these actions are obviously terrible, right? But we're all human beings as well, and it's like, do we give someone a second chance if they've learned their lesson? Like if they've realized that what they were doing was an awful thing. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, do we give them the chance to continue being whatever, making a living, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like Louis is obviously someone that comes to mind with that.
Like the canceling movement.
Well, yeah,
that's
like
happening
where
like the
people are
do
protesting
one thing wrong. People do something wrong, and it could be terrible. I'm not saying that but it's just like, I don't know. It's kind of harsh to be like, absolutely not. No one should be listening. No one should be doing anything. It's like, especially if it's something that you were into like before.
I guess like my point is like, people like to make it seem like there's no line here, and I feel like there is a line. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to talk about what that line is as a society. You get what do you understand what I'm saying?
Then like Charles Manson recorded music, and Guns N' Roses covered one of their songs, and back in the day, Axl Rose would wear a Charlie Manson T-shirt, and they caught a lot of flack for that.
Why? What was his reasoning for that?
Because it was edgy, I guess. I don't know.
That's probably like nice and simple.
But like, how do you draw the line? Like, okay, he's a mass murderer, so we can't listen to any of his art. And I'm not saying we should, and I've never listened to it, so I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I don't think anyone that would listen to his art would be because they want to support a serial killer or whatever. I think it's more of like, they want to hear like what this person created.
But then there's some people also who romanticize about it, like in a dark way.
Yeah, that's always weird to me. Yeah, like I understand the appeal of like making a murderer and stuff like that, but to me, like, I'm just like, why would I? Like, there's some people that really get into it, you know what I'm saying? Like, they love that stuff. Like, almost like fantasize about like the murders and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I don't know, I'm just not there. But yeah, there's some people that really enjoy that stuff, you know?
I heard that those songs were terrible, too.
Really?
Like what he released, yeah. I heard it was pretty bad.
I don't know. I never listened to it, and I don't really care to, honestly. Like, that guy was freaking crazy, man.
He was all right.
And it's weird to think like
so bad he was.
that. I guess in his case, and like, I hate to bring him up, but Hitler, like, both artists, wanted to be artists, and them being unsuccessful is kind of like what turned them, or it may have not been. They may have just been crazy from the beginning, but just like that correlates. You know what I'm saying? That there's some sort of correlation there to being a failed artist.
Yeah.
It's like
people get mad, man.
Yeah, that's a tough thing too. Like if you feel like you're awesome and then you're just like, you just don't go anywhere with it. But yeah, definitely not. I'm not saying that any of those actions are good. They're all terrible people. But we just went on a huge tangent there. So I guess like so you already kind of talked about like some of the local stuff. You've been here for a little bit now. Like, have you noticed like a shift in the scene or anything like that? Like, have you noticed anything?
Maybe I just didn't notice, but I noticed St. Pete has a very vibrant, not just music, but an art scene. I find like a lot of the artists that come play for us are from there, and it's just surprising me. I mean, I don't live in St. Pete, so I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I'm just surprised that there's so much going on over there.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, since we've been here for now, I think almost 10 years. Yeah, it's gonna be 10 in 2020, I believe, right? We got here in 11.
You'd have to tell me, dude.
Yeah, I think it was
when you graduated.
2011. So it's been 8 years since we've been here.
Now let me ask you: do you like say for the long-term future? Like, do you think where you want to take your band? Do you think this is the place, or do you think eventually you may need to move to a larger city? Because I know there's a lot of debate within, with friends of mine as well.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's actually a question that I ask other, like, the bands that sit across from us. And I think for us, I honestly don't know. I don't know anymore, because I had this like thought that we needed to leave Florida in order to get more, I guess, I don't know, success or whatever. But with the internet and social media, like, now I'm kind of wondering if maybe having a home base here and just touring a lot is still like,
because that may
viable.
work out to your advantage, because like if you move to New York, you're competing with thousands of other bands.
But the only thing I would say against that is that although we are competing, I think that we're a decent band, for example, and I think that we would have more eyes on us. So like I think we'd
That's
have
true.
more possibility of getting like, you know, people, you know, just like getting more popularity there than we might have here. And it is interesting because I'm not trying to like boast or anything at all. This is just what's been happening, but like I have noticed that like there have been more people coming out to our shows recently, and like it's been awesome. You know, I appreciate every new fan, or you know, even like our friends that still come out, or other bands that come and support us. Like, I've noticed that it's like more and more now. If we're slowly getting like bigger numbers and like
That's
turnout,
good.
which
Yeah.
is great. Yeah. Like, so to me, it's like I remember thinking at first like, oh, Florida's not. It might just not be a great like place for like music, like a music scene. But I do kind of feel like this shift right now that's happening where there's more like community happening between.
But what
bands.
attracted you to Tampa? Because obviously, being from Miami, you would think there's a larger scene down there.
Yeah, there isn't though. Actually, I
No?
think now they're starting. Like one is starting to like pop up, and I still haven't had any Miami bands come on yet to talk about this. And I've wanted to talk with somebody like for a while now.
Is it because the type of music, or because I'm sure they have like a big Latin scene down there?
Yeah. So like the music that's big down there is like hip hop, reggaeton.
Okay.
And then when we were there was just a lot of like metal, hard rock bands playing.
Okay.
A lot of like the kind of like Taking Back Sunday kind of thing. Like I remember a lot of the shows that we played with bands like that. It was like rare to find a band that was like semi indie. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like I don't know. And the other thing I wonder too is like maybe we just weren't networking enough because we were 15. You know, we were like 16, 17 years old. It was like no way that we would even know. We were just trying to play as much as possible. And I don't know, but I'm starting to see like for example, do you know Palomino Blonde at all?
I've heard of the name.
Yeah, they just performed at Shuffle Tampa a couple nights ago.
Okay.
And they're like in their early 20s. They're like 23. I'm not that much older than them. I'm only 26. But that's still like that 3 years can mean a lot. You know what I'm saying? Where like their generation of whatever, like their age group is like they're the ones making, like they're the ones starting bands and like, you know, playing and stuff. Like I remember for me personally, like what got me playing an instrument was actually playing Rock Band with my friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I know she was already playing drums for a while. She was in like 2 bands like when we met her. So that was cool. So she was like the veteran of the band or whatever.
Okay.
But
Not
yeah.
that it meant much, but
But it was interesting that that's kind of like what got me into it, and I do think that a lot of people started playing like guitar at least like after that game came out because it kind of made it popular for that time. I don't know if you noticed that, but I feel like
But
I
anyway,
feel like
going
that
back
happened.
to the original thing about Miami, I think we just caught it at the wrong time. And I think now something's happening, and it's just unfortunate that we're out of it. But Florida takes far too long to get out of.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the main problem with being a touring band and being from Florida.
Yeah.
You can't be in Miami, you can't be in Key West, and it's
Yeah.
practical for you to tour, right? Because
Yeah.
it takes you an entire day basically
Yeah.
to get out of Florida.
Because people have told me that unless you got shows booked going north, leaving the state, then it's not worth it because all you do is driving and you're not making any money.
We toured into up there, and we stopped in Florida before going into Georgia because it was just like you have to stop. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Yeah, it's a
can't be
rough drive.
It's a rough drive.
Yeah.
Like you can't, you know. I mean, I'm sure there's people that finish the drive all the way into Georgia, but it's just kind of, it's just rough. It's just rough being in a car with 3 other human beings for that long. Like eventually, you're just like, I am sick and tired of all of you, and everyone needs to just chill out.
I mean, for me personally, it's not even like the dealing with like you guys. It's more of just being in a confined space, like sitting for that long. Like, you know, like your body just like, I remember, I think after the first tour, and it was only in Florida, we did Jacksonville, Miami, and Tallahassee. And I just remember coming back and my body was like in pain from just sitting. Like, I guess like I didn't stretch enough or something, you know what I'm saying? And like, I remember trying to like play basketball and stuff, and it just didn't feel good for like 2 weeks. You know, like it took a while for me to get back into like feeling flexible again and all that stuff. But yeah.
One thing I've also, someone had told me is that, you know, when they're on tour, you know, they stay at fans' houses or friends' houses or whatever, things like that, which is cool. But at the same time, what he was saying is like, some people don't understand that after a gig, sometimes, he wants to be alone. And you kind of want to decompress and just have some quiet because you're around people. You don't necessarily, you love your family, your friends, and the fans and stuff. And you want to talk to them. But then there's also a time where you just want to kind of be by yourself and just be quiet.
Yeah, that's definitely me. That's our. I think that's maybe all of us except for our bass player.
Yeah.
He might be the only one that doesn't care as much about that, but like definitely like Kenny and I are like the two guitar players. Like we're both like Kenny. I think Kenny the most out of all of us. Like you can tell when he's had enough of interacting with people. He starts getting a little grumpy.
Yeah. his people throttle is just I'm done.
Yeah.
Because I guess people have the perception. Okay, so you're a musician. Or after the show, you want to go party all night, which I'm sure is fun.
I do. But I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but then there's times where you don't.
Yeah,
and,
no, absolutely. There are definitely nights where it's just like I want to go somewhere, I want to shower, and I want to crawl into my bed, and I'm done. And the thing is, especially after touring, like driving to the venue, it's exhausting. Like you get there after driving X amount of hours, and then you have to.
Do you need to go out there?
No, they're fine.
Oh, okay.
You drive X amount of hours, you get there to unload, to then set up, to then play, to then pack up the car again. Then you're going to sit there and finish the show, obviously, because I'm out of state. I'm not going to leave to a hotel room.
And 80% of the time, you won't play to like a big crowd unless like you're already like somehow established or like you book like an established band, which happened to us on both tours where we kind of played to not a ton of people. There were both we did have one show in each tour though that had a good turnout, so that kind of made like the difference. And I think they're both of those shows ended up being towards the like literally the last show of the tour. Yeah.
Now, for you guys, like, do you usually reach out to venues yourselves, or are you pretty much well established where people contact you? You don't have to worry about.
No, definitely not. I've noticed how easy it is to book a tour, like just by doing it. The first tour we went on was with Jordan Esker. We did a Florida tour with him. And he basically was just like, just like have a bill set to go. So start like doing research like of what bands are in the area, contact them, basically get what available dates they have, try to link it up, and then approach the venue once you have that. And that's been the easiest way to book, like if they don't know who you are, for example. Because usually like I've noticed that people will come out to shows if you're from out of town. Which is weird, but I've noticed that here, for example, if you have like a Miami band or like a band from like a different city or something like that, like maybe not Tampa St. Pete, but like if you have from at least a couple hours away, people will tend to come out to hear like what the sound is, which I find so weird, but I kind of get it. But it's like there's so many like bands that I haven't heard yet that live here, you know what I'm saying, that I'm interested in like going to see. But I do notice that like there tends to be more of like I guess more people coming out when there's a band from like a different area, which is it's cool. I mean, that's why I always try to now I'm trying to put those shows like specifically, like I'm trying to book at least one outside band now, and it's also a good way to like show swap with other bands, that way if you want to go play like if I want to go play in Miami, they can hook us up with a show as well, you know what I'm saying? So it's been a learning, like I've learned a lot this year.
But then it's a lot of work because I mean you want to write music, but then also we live in the social media age, so you got to make sure our Facebook is current and
sucks.
I'm just here nodding because I'm like, it'd be nice if writing music
you should do a
was
podcast,
it.
man. These questions are great questions. But like that. Like, for example, I haven't been working on new music with the band, for example. Like, we've been busy just kind of, like, figuring out shows. And Kenny still lives in Miami, for example, our other guitar player.
So he drives up from Miami just for shows?
So he's been driving up, and I think we have upcoming, like, we have, like, we just did this recently where we had, like, back-to-back shows, like, one weekend, and then literally the following weekend we had another show. So he had to come up twice.
It was, like, 3 weekends of the month. So he was here like every single Friday.
Yeah, it was weird. I'm not gonna lie.
There's a lot of driving.
Yeah, and then so it's like we have to kind of like give it up to him for at least like making that sacrifice because we tried doing the three piece thing for a little bit, and it just doesn't sound the same. It's like it's doable, but like it's just not our sound. Like it's not. It's just not good, in my opinion. Like I feel like you people can't get into it as well. Like we've kind of like we've got this like tight knit sound now with the four of us, and like having one guy out, it does make a huge difference. But with that, I've started two other projects myself where I'm like creating with those people. So I've been able to kind of like work my I guess my artistic, my
Is it similar in what you do with House of I, or
no? One of them is like really lo-fi,
okay,
and then the other one is like 80s lo-fi mixed in with like modern stuff. Like I would say like it sounds like without even hearing them, because I didn't know that they existed, was the Voids. Do you know who the Voids are?
The Voids, no.
Yeah, it's
no.
Julian Casablanca's other band.
Oh, okay, yeah, you mentioned that to me.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that, where like they do like a bunch of different styles, but you can kind of hear that there's like a 80s influence in it.
Okay.
I would say it's something like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And our singer, I've heard that he sounds like he has like kind of like the same like melodic phrasing as Alex Turner from the Arctic Monkeys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like his kind of like choice of like notes and stuff is like his like, I guess, his phrasing is the best way to explain it.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so that's been nice, and that'll be coming out soon, hopefully.
Okay, cool.
That's at least been entertaining him.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, and doing this as well, like doing this podcast has been, it's been a lot of work, and doing the jam sessions thing now, like having bands come out here and play, like it's been fun, man. I'm not gonna lie, like it is a lot of work. I'll say that, and I've even had this thought process recently, and I hope no one from my job listens to this, but if they end up listening to it, whatever. I've been thinking about like basically finding a solution to my time, because I'm there at work, from 6:30 to 3 o'clock. And I get home and I try and work out for an hour or something. I come here, I have to either cook, and I don't really have a lot of time to edit or like work on music and stuff. So it bums me out, Like I want a part-time job, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That way I have way more time to like do this, for example. I could possibly have like more people on, you know what I'm saying? So
Okay, that's cool.
it'd be nice. Yeah. Yeah, you should start a podcast.
Yeah.
You have good questions, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
So-
you're the conversation that we had that night, I was like, oh, this is just a genuine music fan, and that's really cool, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so let me see. Okay, yeah, this is actually a question that I was wondering, or rather that I think maybe, did you write that down? That was me, right? Yeah, so do you think that unique venues like hotels will become more of like more requested by like artists, like local artists and stuff like that?
That I don't really know. I know in some like larger urban cities, LA, New York, there's like boutique hotels that actually do shows with big name artists. Far as here, I really don't know. So I really don't know any other hotel that really does music like we do. If they have anything, it's like, a cover band in the bar, or maybe someone's playing light jazz on the saxophone, or, something like that. But I really don't know, because I really don't know any of the hotels that do this, really.
Have you thought about maybe like becoming like a part of, I guess, like another kind of DIY location, like other than hotels?
Yeah, I have. Because when I left Zephyr Hills and before I got hired over in St. Pete, we really didn't have a home, and I reached out to a few places. Didn't get any response from anybody, but that was something that we were thinking about.
Yeah.
And then we also. We can make this thing like where it's not confined to like just one location. Like it could be like almost like pop-up shows. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like right now we have a home base because I work there, but we also entertain the idea of like, maybe, doing, for this month we'll do a show here, and next month, someplace else.
That's actually the question that I was kind of.
But that's a lot
of
of work, though. And
Is it?
And then you have to reach out to people, and the
That's
people
true.
that I've reached out to, they were either not interested or I never got a response.
Yeah.
So
That's true. I can see that being difficult, right? To find a place to do it, especially if it's not like a traditional venue, one that is like literally made for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
That would be hard, because then you're asking that place to figure out bands that have PAs, that have all of these
Yeah.
things, which is the moment
Yeah.
you give people work, they're not interested.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, I'm out.
yeah.
But it's interesting because we played this thing when we went to Georgia. It's called Punk Black.
Okay.
And what they do is that they have shows with bands that have either just, like black people or Latin people in the band.
Okay.
And that's what they showcase.
Okay.
But it's interesting to see that they're actually bringing up that kind of showcase in different venues across the country. I think they moved up to in the north or something like that. Like
Punk Black?
Yeah, like they went up to what
I saw the Afropunk that they did a show in France with
really?
Samurai Shotgun, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's I think it might be like this, like related. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I saw that.
It's just
there.
interesting to see that kind of concept where they're doing that kind of thing where they're like, but I'm sure that it's a lot of work, like,
yeah.
Hey, this venue, find bands like we do this, we can go ahead put our name on it, but like things like that, we can maybe send you one band, but the rest of the show you need to figure, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that must be hard.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with So Far Sounds or So Far?
I am. I used to know someone who was involved in So Far Sounds Tampa. She does not live in Tampa anymore, but I'm familiar with it. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that's kind of like a similar concept. I know they don't do like full bands usually. It's usually like an acoustic act, but
I believe so. Yeah, because it's more like a living room setting type thing.
Yeah, but I think. I don't know. It would be, and I'm willing to help as much as possible. But it would be cool to like.
Well, because I mentioned Ocala earlier. There's another. I don't know if it's a company or I don't know who does it, but they have something called the Couch Sessions, where they do almost like performance art pieces in different areas. Like at the hotel that my friend works at, they had a blues singer play, and then why an artist, he was painting a painting, I guess inspired by the music at the same time. And so I know
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because I think like have you tried and I this is kind of like not really podcast like conversation, but I'm wondering if you've tried like galleries and stuff like that. Like have you hit up galleries? Because that's always a cool thing.
Not galleries. I have a friend who worked. It's not really a gallery. It's one of those them painting studios where you come in, they teach you how to paint something, you paint it, you bring it home. It didn't work out there. But basically the hotel is it's what's available because that's where I work and it's available. So
no, it's definitely like I love the hotel. It would be cool to like for you to be able to have the hotel be like the most consistent one that you have, and then also branch out to other ones as well. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, I love that. I love the fact that it's there. So we approached the hour mark here. So I just kind of wanted to plug like a couple of the upcoming shows that you have. So August 3rd, Poisonville Songs is presenting. The show is with Element, and then August 10th you have No Code and Black Clash. The 17th is with Paul Guzzetti.
It's actually Jack Collins with special guest.
Sorry, Jack Collins. Yeah, look at you. You already know. And then I'm seeing Ocala.
Yeah. Cassandra Rose. She'll be there on the 18th.
That's right. You said that. That's awesome. And then I guess if you want more information on those, you can go on the Poisonville Facebook page, and we'll have links to that. Our show, which you booked us on, thank you so much for that. We'll be playing with Tolerance Break and the Flower Patch Kids.
Yes, that's on the September 14th, I believe.
Yep. So definitely thank you for that, and I appreciate you driving over here for this.
Well, thank you for having me. Do you mind if I give a quick shout out to the people that are involved?
Go for it.
Even though I'm like the prime mover, but there are some people that do help me. Back in the early days, Amy Vogt, she lives in Orlando now. She was the kind of like my second in this. She's not involved in it now, but in the early days, she was a great help. My friend Shalewa Springs, who I still call my boss, even though I don't work for her anymore. She was the one who gave me the platform to do this. She's also involved in this now with me, so I want to thank her. Two other people, Logan Charles III. He's a musician and a stand-up comedian. He's kind of like our MC at our shows if he's available. He does a little comedy set, and he also introduces the bands, and he kind of helps us out behind the scenes. And then my bud from Luxury Maine and Hotel Life, Aaron Kyle Nelson. He helps me out a lot, and so they're kind of like part of the Poisonville family. So I want to say thank you to all of them.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and like I mentioned, like we'll drop all those links in there, all the descriptions to your stuff. We'll have to have you come back with with your partner there.
Yeah, I mean, the next time she could do the talking. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll find out more from her.
yeah.
But again, thank you so much, and yeah, have a good one.
All right, thank you. Don't forget, September 14th is the show with House of I.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.